Hello, my name is James, and this is the first episode of This Is How I Did This. And this could be the only episode of This Is How I Did This. We'll see what happens. But how does this all come about? So a few weeks ago, I did a shoot for Halloween based on Medusa. And I got a few questions from people asking, what my process was and how I went about this shoot. So I thought, I'm going to make a short little video just explaining, I guess, almost like a recipe tin guide, how I go about creating photo shoots. And you can use this for anything as well. It doesn't have to be for a creative shoot. And I think it just will give a bit of insight into, how I go about shoots, the things that I think about, the things you're going to need to think about, and, what it takes to kind of pull something like this off. So here we go. So step one, I had to create a concept. And creating a concept is very important for a shoot like this, because if you don't have a concept, it's very hard to get it off the ground. So, and I'll talk about that in a moment. I had a few ideas for this concept and, creating a shoot around the myth of Medusa. So the first idea I had was using Myla as part of the shoot, because obviously in the myth, Perseus sees the reflection of Medusa from the inside of his shield. So I wanted to kind of have a bit of a play with that, or use that as the basis of, shoot number one. I also wanted to create a few black and white images, but make them a little bit more like those 70s, 80s kind of horror movies, those European, Italian ones, and very sharp lines, very sharp shadows, a bit dramatic, a little bit over the top. And the third concept was going to be based off, a bit of a play with color. So maybe using opposite colors and just creating something a bit more dramatic. Once you've got those kind of ideas, you can build off that. I can create mood boards based off reference images. For things like this, which are very creative, you can get reference images from anywhere, like books, Instagram, Facebook, Google, and all that kind of stuff. And then from there, you can, develop your ideas further and build on your concept. So the only thing I'd say is take your time. Concepts take a little bit of time to develop, but it's very important to have a solid concept, because if you're going to try and reach out to people, if you don't have a network of makeup artists, models, talent that you can work with, or that you've worked with before, it's very hard to connect with people and to get them to buy into your idea if you've got nothing to work with. So having a concept is a very important part of the process. So step number two, I needed to get a creative group of people to help pull this idea off. And this is what I was referring to earlier about developing a strong concept, because if you've got a concrete concept, you can approach people, you can talk to people, and it's very important to attract the right talent, because for print shoots especially, where people are just doing it to create art, or they're doing it to build their portfolios, or whatever the reason is, you really want people that are going to buy into the idea and want to do the idea. So I was very lucky in this case that my model Mimi, who I've worked with before, she really loved the idea, loved it so much so she bought a dress, which made it easier for me. And she was fantastic to work with as always. My makeup artist Ruby, she was really interested in the idea. She loves the creative process. It just makes things easier when you've got these people around you. Ideally for shoots, you want to have obviously a model, a makeup artist, a wardrobe stylist if you can find one, hairstylist if you can get one, and even an assistant. And an assistant is just as important as all these roles are as important as each other, because there are many times on shoots where you might be just doing so many things, like setting up lights, getting things organized, creating the concept, building the shoot from the scratch, where you're going to forget something. And having someone around you to help with lighting, to test lighting, just to make sure that the shoot runs smoothly is gold. So it's important that you've got a good group of people around you when you're trying to pull these kind of shoots off. So for step number 3, I need to get some props for this shoot. And I think if you're going to do a shoot like this, you really want to get good props, because it just helps elevate your shoot from here to here. Fortunately, you can get props nowadays from a variety of places. Etsy's a really good source. Facebook Marketplace, eBay, even you'd be surprised what friends and relatives might have lying around. Market stores and even costume shops are all great places to source props. I was quite lucky because some of this stuff I've had from past shoots and collected throughout the years. When you take photos of people and you're doing some crazy shoots like this, you'll find that you'll have a little bit of a collection of stuff in your studio. If you are going to do these kind of shoots, definitely use good props, but obviously stay within budget. Don't go spending a fortune because they're hard to resell unless it's Halloween again. That's probably the easiest point I'll make. Once you've got the foundations of what you're looking to do, you can start to think about, well, how am I going to pull this look off? So for a background, I've literally just made a giant mylar backdrop by getting a big roll of mylar, cutting it in half, sticking it together and putting it up for the background. For the lighting, I've just kept it very simple. I've used 2 lights. The first light to illuminate the model is just a beauty dish, and the second is firing right behind the model, and that is just to create a bit more of an ethereal light. I've also got my makeup artist Ruby just spraying smoke just to create a bit of mystery to the shoot. So that's all I've done for this first look. So for the second and third look, I wanted to do something a little bit different to the first look in the sense that I'm using LED, not using flash. And also for the third, I'm using light tubes as well, just to create a bit of separation between the main light and the background. Also though, I'm using one of these. So this is a really cool tool. I don't know if you can see that or not. It's called an optical spot. And basically what this does is it helps to shape light in the way you want it to be created. You can create a spotlight, you can create sharp lines. If you hook this up to an RGB LED light like I have, you can create one color on a certain area of a model or a background and have the whole scene in a different color. If you want to project different shapes onto a background or onto a model, you can use the gobos that come with it. If you just want to create a tiny sliver of light, you can shape it with this tool. These are fantastic to use. I don't use this for every single shoot, but for a lot of creative shoots that I do, this is a great tool to use. And I think, for a couple of $100, these things are great. Also, one of the differences in my thought process between that first look and these two is that I wanted to get a little bit closer, as in more portrait style, as opposed to a half body or full body style of shot. I want to focus more on the model's eyes, poses with the fingers, and also just kind of creating a small sliver of light over the eyes just to create a bit more mystery and a bit of a play on light. And also just to add something a bit special, because it is Medusa, you want to kind of amp up the drama, I think, for a shoot like this. And black and white really does that, where you've got half hidden, but yet a part of the model's eyes are revealed. So that was kind of my main focus or main concept for these kind of looks. Also, with the color RGB look, I've also introduced 2 light tubes just to create a bit of color contrast between the main light and the background. If you're not sure about what colors to use, a simple color wheel will make your life very, very easy. So it's a great way of looking at what colors work well opposite each other, different tones. And, I use color wheels quite regularly if I'm a little bit lost or unsure about what can work well and what mixes well together. But those were the kind of ideas that I was playing with, just to separate these 2 looks from that main look. Going from something which is using strobes, a beauty dish, a mylar background where the model is, fully illuminated, to something which is a little bit more mystery orientated, where, you've only got partial illumination just over the model's eyes or just her face, but yet the background is in darkness or just slightly revealed, or you got a bit of a shadow. And also as well, thinking about what colors, am I going to use blue and purple, or am I going to use red, or am I going to use any colors which I think are going to create a bit of drama? So all those things are going through my head for this kind of look and are playing out in this kind of concepts. In terms of what camera I've used, it's not really important, but I think everyone that watches this stuff wants to know, what camera did someone use to pull this off? You don't need to buy the most expensive camera to do the most craziest stuff. You'll be surprised at what people have used in the past for shoots. For me, for this shoot, I've used this. It's the OG, it's the original, it's still the best. It's a Nikon D850 with a Sigma Art 85mm 1.4. I'm getting a workout just by doing this. I still love using an DSLRs for certain shoots, and for this one I've used it, and it does a great job still, in my opinion, today. The one thing I forgot to mention is, for this shoot I was meant to buy contact lenses, and I forgot, which made life a little bit trickier. So what I had to do, just to kind of create that character and to build on that character and to make things a little bit more dramatic, is I've just cloned out the iris for each eye. And that's just to create a bit more drama for this shoot. But when you're doing this stuff, as I said, you're always going to forget something if you don't have an assistant, like I didn't for this one, and I forgot contact lenses. So there you go. But that's it. That's how I did this. As I said, this is all about kind of just giving a bit of a recipe guide as to how I go about shoots, what I'm thinking about, and how I'm going to create different looks and pull different looks off throughout a shoot. And as I said at the start, you can use this kind of recipe method for any kind of shoot. It doesn't need to be a creative one like this. Obviously it'll be a little bit different, but this is what I was taught when I was learning at photo school a long time ago about how you create a photo shoot. And I think it's just a really easy step-by-step guide that people can use and that I use today for different shoots. But look, thanks for watching. I hope this has helped someone. I hope it explains to those 2 or 3 people that messaged me how I pulled this off. If you got questions, please feel free to reach out to me. I'm more than happy to answer them. And yeah, enjoy. See you later. Bye.